So here's a thought for you. Can a biological process actually be a sacred text? I mean, really think about that. Could the monthly cycle of the human body contain a story? A whole drama with heroes, villains, and profound consequences? Well, today we're diving into a framework that says, absolutely yes.
So let's get right into it. We're looking at a framework that sees the menstrual cycle not as just, a biological process, but as this incredibly deep drama. And the kicker? The entire story, the whole script for this drama, is supposedly encoded right within the verses of the Quran.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it down. We're going to follow this drama act by act, almost like a play, and map it right onto the biological journey. First, we'll meet the cast of characters. Then we'll see this crucial signal arrive. Follow it as it travels to two very different places. And finally, watch how it all leads to one of two massive outcomes, either creation or a complete and total reset.
All right, first things first. Every great drama needs its cast of characters, right? And in this interpretation, the key players, the biological components of the menstrual cycle, are mapped one-to-one with some major figures from the Quran.
Think of this as our playbook for the whole story. Our cast list, it's pretty wild. You've got the angels playing the role of the ovum, or the fertilizing signal. The prophet Ibrahim, he's the follicular environment. Lot himself represents the uterus. And his wife, she's the uterine lining. Even the destruction of their town has a role. Every single one of these is absolutely critical to how this biological drama unfolds.
So every cycle, every story, has to start somewhere, right? It all begins with a signal, this moment of pure, untapped potential. And in our drama, that biological signal is the angels, the very same messengers who first visit the prophet Ibrahim in the Quranic story.
And this is the absolute key to the whole thing. The ovum isn't just a cell. In this framework, it's a decision signal. It's a message that, from the very beginning, carries two possible futures. It holds the promise of life, the announcement of a child, but it also carries the verdict for destruction and renewal if that promise can't be fulfilled. It's one signal, but it has two completely different destinies packed inside it.
Okay, so our signal, the ovum, begins its journey. And its first stop is the house of Ibrahim. Now, this isn't just some location in a story. In our drama, the house of Ibrahim is the biological event of ovulation. It represents the body being perfectly prepared for a welcoming, perfect reception.
See, in the Quran, Ibrahim is legendary for his hospitality, right? Well, here that hospitality is a direct allegory for the body's follicular phase. It's that painstaking biological process of preparing a perfect, nutrient-rich environment, one that's totally ready to welcome and nourish the ovum.
And that quote, "He brought a roasted calf," perfectly captures that moment of peak biological readiness. The feast is literally on the table. The house is open. The body has done everything it possibly can to welcome the potential for new life.
But this is where the story takes a huge dramatic turn, because that exact same signal, the very same ovum, now continues its journey, and where it goes next is a space defined not by a warm welcome, but by intense conflict and crushing pressure. So now we arrive at the house of the prophet Lut, and in this drama, his house isn't just a house. It is the uterus. It's this protected internal space that's under siege, surrounded by immense, hostile pressure from the outside world.
What you're seeing here is a biological conflict playing out as a Quranic scene. It's perfect. You've got Lut, representing the uterus, desperately trying to protect the signal, the ovum, inside. But on the outside, you have his people, this external pressure, trying to force their way in and destroy it. This is the drama of a failed fertilization attempt, a hostile environment where life just can't take root.
And this brings us to the absolute climax of the cycle. We've watched one signal, the ovum, represented by the angels, travel through two totally different environments. And now we're going to see how that leads to two completely opposite fates embodied by two very different women. Really let this sink in, because this is the absolute heart of the entire analogy. The whole drama of the monthly cycle hinges on this one moment. How is this one single identical signal received? Everything that happens next is a direct consequence of that reception. Was it welcomed or was it rejected?
Okay, this chart just lays it all out, side by side. On one hand, you have Sarah, Ibrahim's wife. She receives the signal, she laughs, she welcomes it, and she gets the promise of a son, Ishaq. That is fertilization. That's the pregnancy. On the other hand, you have Lut's wife.
She gets the same signal, the same command to leave, but she rejects it. She stays behind. And what happens? She's expelled. That is the uterine lining being shed.
So these two women, Sarah and Lut's wife, they basically become archetypes for the two fundamental paths of every single menstrual cycle. Sarah's path is fertilization. The egg implants, a new life begins, and Lut's wife's path, that's menstruation. The lining is shed, the cycle purges itself, and ends. So now, let's follow that second path, the path of rejection, all the way to its dramatic conclusion. And it's important to see this not just as an ending, but as a necessary purification. It's a total reset that gets the body ready for the next cycle. And the linguistic detail here is just, wow, it's pretty incredible. The word used for Lut's wife in the Quran is ajuz, which literally means old or aged or spent. And the fact that she stays behind when told to leave, that's seen as a perfect symbol for a uterine lining that doesn't detach willingly, one that kind of clings on and has to be forcibly expelled.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the destruction of the town. In this framework, that violent, chaotic, but ultimately cleansing event is the menstrual purge itself. It's the body's way of completely wiping the slate clean to make way for the new. So the end of Lut's story gives us this perfect three-step sequence. Step 1, the purge. The town is destroyed and the spent uterine lining, Lut's wife, is expelled with it. Step 2, the reset. Lut is commanded, do not look back, which symbolizes the womb cleansing itself without reabsorbing any of the waste. And finally, step 3, the new cycle. The purge is complete, the womb has reset, and it's ready to start all over again.
So when you put it all together, what you have is a view of a biological function that is, well, anything but mundane. It becomes this profound, repeating story of potential and reception, of choice and consequence, of creation or purification, a sacred drama playing out every single month, right inside the body.
And that really leaves us with a fascinating, almost dizzying question to think about. If the womb really does encode this incredible drama of creation and destruction, well, what other cycles are we living through unseen? What other profound stories are unfolding right now in the seemingly ordinary processes of our own bodies and the world around us?